Many years ago, Woodrow Wilson said, "What good is a political party unless it's serving a great national purpose? And what good is a private college or university unless it's serving a great national purpose?"
I've given some thought about my childhood growing up. You know, one thing about prison, it gives you an opportunity, if you take it, an opportunity to do a lot of reflecting upon your past.
You know, clear this crap on me about, well, you know, you my son, and, again, you know, I'll pay it back, and, you know, we can come up with a contract.
But he done this before.
Yeah.
This is the Ambassador Hotel. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
They have an emergency. They want the police to the kitchen right away.
What kind of an emergency?
I don't know, honey. They hung up. I don't know what
We'll
happened.
find out. We don't send out
I
without...
beg your pardon?
We have to know what you were sending on.
That's all he said and hung up. It's some kind of an emergency. I don't know what happened. You know, we have the Kennedys and everybody here tonight.
You have what?
Mr. Kennedy here.
Big deal.
Hiya, fellas. This is G.I. Jill with the G.I. Jive. Yep, the old jukebox that hangs around G.I. Jive is set to operate again. And this session, I'm going to live up to my name of G.I. Jill by doing the show by the numbers. I can hear the groaning from all parts of the world. Does it make you think of good old basic training? And look, you certain PSC from APO 322, that invitation to dinner at your mom's sounds all right. And now, we'd better get back to the jukebox and Glenn Miller playing Rhapsody in Blue for Jack, Abe, Blitz, Red, Roy, and Walter at APO 959.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth. No single space project in this period will be more impressive to mankind.
The black and white picture seemed almost ghost-like, but it clearly showed the two men cavorting about in the 1/6 gravity of the moon.
Be careful when you tune your radios in to pay no attention to the pirate signals that sometimes take over the laser communications from outer space. It's high technology, and sometimes, of course, there are problems with it.
The American Space Shuttle Challenger exploded about a minute after it was launched yesterday, and all 7 crew are assumed to have died. President Reagan said the United States was in mourning, but the space program would continue.
And Mr. Koppel showed some footage of a program that is on every evening in the Soviet Union for children called Good Night Little Ones. And after he showed it, he said, I guess the closest thing we have to this in the United States is Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
I don't believe that Sirhan's bullets ever hit my father.
Okay.
And neither did the coroner, Thomas Noguchi, who's probably the most famous coroner in American history, who did an autopsy that is known as the perfect autopsy. He actually flew in the chief coroners of all the every branch of the military service to sit in the surgery theater to watch what he did because he knew what had happened in Dallas. And he didn't want to repeat.
Hello. Allow me to introduce you to a few of the open-minded, free-thinking faithful, my friends and yours. Broadcasting live from somewhere in the Everglades. Welcome to the Conspiracy Squad.
Hi, I'm Nigel Kent, and welcome to the Conspiracy Squad. This is the program where we surprise our guest host with a sudden introduction right in the midst of pre-roll. But I need to tell you a little bit about what our program is. It's a free-thinking roundtable discussion where we consider conspiracy theories and facts and pull the veil on a wider reality. If you like open-minded and third eye opening discussions, why don't you join the Conspiracy Squad? I'm Nigel Kent, and I encourage everybody to subscribe right now to our channel on Rumble. That's rumble.com/conspiracy squad. And if you want email updates, you can go to conspiracysquad.com and click join us so we can keep in touch. And none of this, I can't find the join us link. It's right there on the front page. Now, joining me tonight, we have two amazing panelists. We have Kat Marks and Jasmine Starr. Jasmine Starr, why don't you introduce yourself, tell everybody who you are and what you do.
I am Jasmine Starr. I was previous co-host of Trouble in Paradise podcast here on the panel on the Conspiracy Squad now. And I just enjoy my time digging down little rabbit holes
and big ones.
And big ones, and having fun in doing so.
And Kat Marks, who are you? What do you do?
I am, dare I say, conspiracy theorist. But like us all, we want to see the facts. So I love doing research, and I went to school for research pretty much. I went to school for art history, but there's a lot of research, and it's just what I love to do, research.
I hear you. Well, we all want the truth to come out. I mean, when we talk about pulling the veil, we're not just conspiracy theorists, we're conspiracy researchers. And also, a lot of times these things aren't really... We talk about a lot of conspiracies, but we talk about a lot of things that aren't super conspiratorial in nature. And tonight, Kat Marks is bringing the goods on a main subject, which is not super conspiratorial, or maybe that's the wrong
Absolutely
read.
Is.
Okay. Maybe it's just a little less contentious than some of the stuff we've talked about in previous episodes. But before we get to the main subject, there's a couple things that we need to talk about. And for starters, our good friend Gabby McAllister is traveling around the country like the globetrotter that she is. So she's not going to be able to make it tonight, but that's okay. We're going to hold down the fort on Gabby's behalf, and we'll see her back here next week. Now, the poll of the week. Obviously, there's a lot going on. The poll of the week, Dean South 8, is on our website. All you have to do is go to conspiracysquad.com and click poll of the week. Now, the poll itself is about the Olympics. I'm going to check in on that poll real quick. I'm going to pull up the asset share and see. The poll says, are you watching the Paris Summer Olympics? Those are the very Olympic Games that are going on right now as we speak, although they're probably in bed over in Paris, so they'll be starting up first thing in the morning. Right now, the number one choice that's been voted for on this poll is no. It's globalist garbage. There are some other points there, so please chime in. This poll is going to come in handy later in the show, so we'd like you to chime in on your opinion about the Olympics and sports in general. Please do so on our website, conspiracysquad.com, and we'll light up the chat later on. Whoever has the show monitored, turn your volume down. Thank you.
Yeah,
okay.
Sorry.
All good. All right. Let's see. What else? What other housekeeping do we have? The world keeps getting stranger and stranger. What a difference a week makes. Man, we have had some strange stuff happen over the last week, haven't we, Jazz?
Yes, we have.
I know something very interesting happened to you, but we're not going to talk about that just yet because I'm segueing and trying to buy time because Don Lemon of CNN believes... Can you believe that Don Lemon of CNN believes that Michelle Obama is prettier than Melania Trump?
Did he suddenly become blind?
Well,
or is he now attracted to men?
No, Don Lemon is gay. That's the funny. That's the quiet part out loud. Don
Michelle's
Lemon
a
is a
man,
gay
so.
black dude.
Wow.
So I mean, I don't. I think Melania is. I think she's very exotic looking. She's not the most beautiful woman in the world, but she's definitely pretty. Michelle Obama? No. I mean, nope. Not pretty. Unless you're Don Lemon and
Everyone's
you like dudes.
pretty in their own way. Right. But it's Michael. So it's a man.
Yeah. And so this is the tee off for the subject tonight. We're going to keep teasing penis stuff until we get to the goods later on. So I hope that doesn't bother anybody. By the way, this is probably going to be our most off-color episode that we... I can see the live chat's already piling on. Dean South, I think you just got a fist pump from Jasmine Starr, so that's not easy, by the way. Okay, let's see. Whoops, wrong screen.
Am I frozen on?
No, you look good to me, Jazz. Everything's good.
All right. I'm frozen on my side.
PF3 says she does not want to know how we know that. I'm assuming she's talking about the Michelle Obama stuff. Or she could be talking about the Jasmine Starr fist bump. I'm not sure. If we have any technical issues, the live chat will let us know and tell us how to fix all of them. And maybe even fix them remotely on our behalf. But no, Jazz, you're still live as far as I can see. So
Awesome, thank you.
Oh my God.
good. We're gonna have to.
I don't know why this.
We're gonna have to.
My volume is off. My thing, everything is off, and it keeps playing. Sorry.
This is why we're not on CNN because, like, I remember when we went out, like, the first episode rather of this season. My computer system shit the bed hard. So we live streamed the entire episode, but then lost everything. We couldn't keep the recording. We couldn't keep anything from it. Second episode went pretty well. Third episode, we had like a 20-minute delay at the beginning of the episode because of some stupid echo thing that was on my end. Got that figured out. Last couple episodes have been pretty quiet. And so right on cue, Kat has arrived with technical problems to make sure that we're staying true to form. So here's another thing that kind of strikes me as surprising. Have you guys heard of white dudes for Kamala Harris?
I have. I saw it on Instagram today.
Like, what was your first? What's your take on that? Like, what was your reaction to that, Kat?
I mean, it's got to be fake. It's just somebody in the government like pushing some weird agenda.
It's definitely weird.
The white male vote.
I mean, why don't they come out in favor of the Second Amendment or free speech or,
Well, because that would be a real thing.
I mean, that would get the vote, though. Apparently, they actually held a press conference, or not some kind of press conference, but some kind of a live event featuring every white man's favorite politician in the United States, Pete Buttigieg, who was basically recruiting white guys to sign up to support our vice president, Kamala Harris, in her bid to be president. According to the New York Post, in Columbus, Ohio, Kamala Harris is using potential VP candidate Pete Buttigieg, God help us, to woo white dudes who need to be honest with themselves about and with each other about the role they've played in our nation's history.
Wait, I just want to say that I'm not trying to woo anybody by bringing Pete into my campaign.
Right.
I just want to make that totally
Didn't he
clear.
totally bomb the Ohio
the train derailment.
chemical spill?
Yes.
Yeah.
Completely. Absolutely. He was, by the time he got on site as Secretary of Transportation for these United States, former President Donald Trump had already been there and had already handed out McDonald's cheeseburgers to the rescue workers and first responders and so on. So, but the quotes that are blowing my mind here is that they've decided to go ahead Washington, or New York Post rather, in quoting Buttigieg, has gone ahead and decided to capitalize white dudes. So in their article, it says, "White dudes, we know full well how MAGA cynically preys on resentments," reads an email to a Post reporter from the group's organizer, Ross Morales. "The moment of crisis is challenging us, but we won't let fear define who we are and take us or our country down a dark path." Now, Jazz, does the name Morales sound distinctly Hispanic to you by chance?
No IDK.
Yeah, IDK either. But I don't know too many like purely white dudes with that name. Anyway, we're coming together to create a space of trust where capital white dudes can support each other and work to elect Kamala Harris the next president of the United States. And I have only 2 words for this article. Hawk Tua.
Womp womp.
Yeah. It was I come up with that at the last second. So, what do you think? I mean, you think Kamala Harris has any shot with white men, or do you think that white men have a ton of hubris and are just sort of all, I don't think they've already got this thing locked up and in the bag?
If a white man has a vagina, they have a chance. Sorry.
Okay. So, no, but, with respect to Pete Buttigieg, who we understand doesn't have a vagina, but it just happens to be a regular gay, old-fashioned gay. What is that even? How do you, conservative gay? No, he's not conservative. What's the word for an old-fashioned gay dude anymore?
I guess not a trans.
Yeah, not a trans guy that we know of.
What do you mean an old-fashioned gay?
Like gay people were gay when we were all 20 years younger, 15 years younger. There was no
gay.
And trans
Gay was gay.
And trans people were called cross-dressers.
Right, no, but they're still gay. The LGBTQ.
Don't forget the P.
The P's coming.
The plus.
Yeah, well, the plus is already there, but I think that the P is coming too, because I think my personal opinion or like theory is that
pedophile.
They're doing all of this that they're doing all of this to normalize it, to throw the P in at the end to say pedophilia, because we're already seeing that across the globe in other countries.
Yeah, because it's like, don't you mean what do they call it? Minor attracted.
Minor attracted person, yeah.
That's disgusting.
This is
absolutely disgusting.
This is where we need to start putting hard stops in for our kids. This is absolutely just
10 years ago and 15 years ago, the media was doing everything they could to absolutely sink and demolish Catholic priests who were having inappropriate relationships with mainly boys, but also girls too. And I mean, the about face that has gone on here in terms of prepping and grooming the mainstream for acceptance of this stuff is the biggest eye opener for me, because it wasn't that long ago that this stuff was so far outside of the mainstream, and we can just see it creeping closer to the middle now.
I think it's a mix of pointing the finger to make you not the spotlight, and also the Vatican going through a lot of their issues.
Well, I mean, the Vatican is a whole nother system of secrets upon secrets upon secrets.
Yeah.
They probably have a hard enough time keeping a lid on all the normal shit that's going on, let alone when some priest comes along and does something terrible with a kid, Mm-hmm. It'd be interesting to see where white dudes for Harris come down on the on the trans agenda, I mean, do you personally know any, and again, I'm not trying to call anybody out, but does anybody personally know a white man that is pro-trans or pro-trans agenda? Because it seems like most of the men that are in these trans things are white guys, like these West Coast trans library, story time videos and all this shit. Does anybody know one?
I have friends, that are either gay or straight that are pro-trans. progressive.
Yeah, but what I mean is, are they themselves trans, or are they just pro-trans white men?
I've never met personally like a pro-trans white man.
I
myself.
I know a pro-trans white man. I know several pro-trans white men, but they're so few and far between. I have such a hard time ever, and this is getting back to the white dudes for Kamala Harris. This is how far off base Buttigieg is. These are not individuals who would ever refer to themselves offhandedly as a white dude, especially in caps. You know?
Yeah.
It's just bizarre to me. White people, perhaps. They might say white people, and it would not be capitalized.
What? Yeah, I don't know any white dudes that would wear that hat for sure. No.
I would. I would wear a white dude's for Harris.
Wear it?
Just to be a dick, yeah.
I'm going to send that to you then, and I'm going to challenge you on that one.
You better wear it.
Oh, is this going to be like a dare? I'm going to end up losing a dare here.
No, I'm gonna put a GoPro on Hash Brown and make her follow you around with a hat on.
Well, you know she follows me around everywhere I go.
Exactly, so she's gonna get it.
You're gonna get a lot of like shots of my feet and my knees, though, and maybe occasionally my hand if she thinks I have a treat. So.
Aww.
Yeah, she's a good girl. She is my number one girl. All right, so by now, fans of the show know that Kat has a dog named Chewy. And where is Chewy? There he is. He's right there. There he is. And then, of course, Jazz has the space dog, who is a dog from another planet. Jazz, what can you tell us about the space dog?
I have Shiloh the space dog. She has her own Instagram page where she has dog vlogs where she is waiting for the mothership to come and take her home. And she is merely here with us mere humans spending her time until they come.
She is a little alien.
Yeah, she is a little alien.
Do you suspect that she has perhaps been abducted a time or two since she's been on Earth, maybe returned to the mothership for a debrief?
Oh, I think definitely whenever we were around Blue Origin and Bezos rocket, I think she really felt at home then. I think she was abducted at the Bonita Springs Dog Park in the sand pit one day.
The only thing I can honestly remember about that visit to, because Jazz and I visited Cape Canaveral one time when we were on a podcast road trip like 4 or 5 years ago, and I distinctly remember driving so far past the security point that by the time I realized that we were a quarter mile or so past the gatehouse, that I thought we were going to get in big trouble because they sent somebody around to turn us around and send us back to the...
Oh, no, they were armed and they sent it. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
but,
they were...
But they were very nice, to be fair. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if...
We were just in a no-no area. That was all.
And I don't know that I don't think they understood that I had like a shit-colored 2x4 coming out of my rear end at the time. Like, I was like literally... like no shit having a mental breakdown because I thought we were going to go to jail and get like J6'd or something like that.
Really? Just for going past a little checkpoint?
With a space dog? See, that's suspect.
See, no, she's our out right there. All they have to do is just examine her and then they would know we were in the right place.
Because she's an alien.
Yeah.
So
I'll take her for studying.
It's interesting too, and then so Kat's dog actually has an otherworldly name. I mean, Kat, did you name Chewie after the Star Wars character, or how did you come up with it?
Well, so I did not actually want to name him Chewie, but everyone was like, "Oh, you should name him Chewie. He looks just like Chewbacca because he was black and brown when he was a baby." And
Racist.
So you should name him Chewie. And so I was like, no, I don't want that name. So we did a naming party. We put a whole bunch of names in a bowl, and like we picked 3, and then we picked down to 2, and then I picked the last one, and then the last name was Chewie. So I was like, all right, well, the universe is naming him Chewie.
It's
so
appropriate. It's a good name. I mean, I've never met him or anything, but it looks like it suits him pretty well. So
he's definitely a Chewie, and the universe was like, his name is Chewie, and
Do you ever
You
think
made it very loud and clear.
if he was at the airport, do you ever think that he would like try to chew on a TSA agent? Do you think he would find like a TSA agent's ankle to be very
No,
chewy?
he would probably lick them to death.
Oh, so he's all
He
love.
loves everybody.
Awesome.
He knows nothing.
Well, we have another entry in the dystopia files, the modern dystopia files, and this one comes from none other than all the way from up north, far, far away from the Everglades somewhere, from a young lady by the name of Jasmine Starr. Jazz, what happened to you with this facial recognition bullshit with the TSA? Go ahead and fill us in. We need the whole story.
All right. So first, I want to thank Gabby for giving me the idea last week or whenever it was we did our CBDC episode, and she was like, "Yeah, you can decline and
decline the facial scanning,
the facial scanning through the TSA checkpoint." So I saw the signs that said, "Yes, it is not mandatory. You can go in and opt out." And I just had a feeling that I was going to run into a little snag, so I thought I would run some audio, and I'll play the audio for everybody.
So you did some recording? You recorded the TSA agent?
I recorded the TSA agent and myself saying,
"How dare you act within your rights?"
How I wanted to opt out, and she didn't listen to me. So here's the recording. From
let's hear it.
I declined the photo. I declined doing the photo. What? I declined doing the photo. What? It says it's voluntary. You've already started the process. Like, you stuck your ID in. You told me to stick my ID in. Yeah. I didn't set it. Are you serious? That's really not right. Oh my goodness, they probably got him messed up too. It's always like recorded. And once you stick your ID in, you start. But I said I opt out. If you're gonna stick your ID in there, make sure you just make sure they know before you stick it in. Okay, yeah, I understand. I don't know, why do you, with a real ID, when you guys are enforcing that, why are we doing this now too? I guess is my question. All it does is just to make sure that it's on your ID. Okay.
All right, you did tell her before. She told you to stick it in.
I told her 3 times.
Yeah.
The second time, she told me it was mandatory. And then I said, the signs around here say that you have an option to opt out. And she says, like at that point, she's like gesturing. She's like, okay. And then points me in the direction of the machine, tells me to put my ID in there. And at that point, when I do, she was like, well, we already started the process.
Yeah.
Like we have to do this now.
You told her twice before she said that you didn't want to participate.
Exactly. And then she said after the second time it's mandatory. And then I called her and said, the signs around here say it's not mandatory. I have the right to opt out. And then the third time when I said that I was opting out, that's when she was like, it's too late. You have to do this. In which I did. So then when I went around behind, I said, and I wanted to peek at their equipment, I was like, what's the purpose of having a real ID, which, they're pushing on everybody.
Except for voters in the Southwest.
True. But it's like, why push this real ID by May of 25 or whatever date it is? And yet they're still trying to do the facial recognition. Well,
isn't the essence of your ID card, your state ID or your license, is a photo? I mean, that is a facial recognition technology right on the card.
Her justification, being a human being, was Like, she can't look at my ID and look at me and say, yeah, that's you, you know? No, it's like, this is such bullshit. And this
So
is,
they trust a computer
yeah,
that doesn't even work when I go through the TSA.
but this is just one way. Like, it's collecting multiple images. And whenever you look, like, we go back to the CBDC and people with like what they need for facial recognition in order to push that and everything. But we won't get into that. So,
Well,
I move
pervasive
forward.
facial recognition has been like the New World Order's wet dream ever since Facebook got the green light. Like, do you remember 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago? You'd be surfing through Facebook and it would come up and it would show you a picture and it would say, "Is this Jasmine Star?" And then you would confirm that its facial recognition guess was correct, and it would link you up and then tag that person in the photo. Well, anybody that listens to my Big Tech Watchdog podcast from this week knows about the rope-a-dope technique. What they did is they quit telling people, they quit notifying people that they were being tagged in photos and just started collecting the data for themselves.
Yep.
And so this facial recognition stuff is
Yeah. Well, you can see that. I don't know like about Droid owners, but on iPhone, you know, if you have certain people, like you'll see, like it'll say people, and you'll have a little cluster of like little circles that have you or them in certain photos. Like, it's already identified them through the technology.
Oh, it knows, yeah.
Yeah. But
it's like people search too on Facebook. You go and you type somebody's name that you met, that you knew back in the second grade. You know their full name. You know damn well Facebook knows exactly who you're searching for. But when you type their name, it shows you 10 screens of other people with the same name.
Exactly. Yeah. So just to wrap that TSA part up, after I did say I wanted to opt out, which they didn't do, and then I had an opportunity, then, you know, I went through the scanner. I saw I was completely green, clear, and I was brought over, and the woman like from TSA flagged me over, and she wanted to, or made me do like a full body pat down, and she said special attention to my back and my front side. Did I want to do it in private? And I was like, nope. You know?
So they punished you immediately with a pat down.
So, and I had to be there like with my arms out, you know, and they went down my back. They went down, you know, they went down my legs. They went up my legs. And then, you know, she was all under the girls and everything. I mean, she was up checking everything out. And I really do feel like it was because I said I wanted to opt out of that photo, even though they still got the facial recognition that they wanted, just to make a point.
Do you think, in your opinion, was the TSA agent legitimately female?
I do believe she was a female, yeah.
Okay. And do you think that the TSA believes that doing these physical inspections with somebody of the same sex makes it more comfortable and palatable for the person undergoing the search?
I think we should have a choice.
So you should, if you want to
They should buy me breakfast or something first. I mean, damn, it was early in the morning, a cup of coffee, something, please.
Or they could have at least gotten you like a handsome young, you know, halfway decent looking dude. Maybe a white dude for Harris would have been appropriate.
Yeah.
I'd rather be rubbed down by that woman. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's the thing. So they think that if it's same sex, that it's easier, that it's more comfortable, more palatable, more acceptable for them to carry out their nefarious and unconstitutional Fourth Amendment violating search and seizure. But they can't even, you know, if you try to apply the same rigorous definitions to male and female from a conservative vantage point, they'll tell you that you're a lunatic.
Okay. I just want Dean South in the chat. That just kind of caught my eye. What were you wearing? They have anti-facial recognition clothing out there. I was wearing
Yeah, ISIS wears that, Dean.
I had a hoodie, but you know, I could easily have taken that off, and then just like a pair of yoga pants and a tank top.
I think, that's, I'm glad you caught that chat, Jazz, because I think to Dean's point, there are masks that you can wear over your face that allow you to see everything around you, but they completely obscure what your face looks like. A lot of this shit came out during COVID, and I know that I remember seeing some of it coming across from China and people getting in trouble for using it and stuff like that. Dean, is that what you're referring to? Let us know in the chat so we can drill a little bit deeper on it.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Jazz, I'm sorry that you have gone through this, but same question with the trans people. Why does anybody know a TSA agent in their life? I mean, raise both hands if you personally know somebody that works for the TSA at the airport. Me neither. Like, I don't know anybody that knows anybody that works for the TSA. If you do, chime in on the chat, please.
I know Port Authority, but not TSA.
Yeah. Chime in on the chat. Let us know if you know anybody that works for the TSA. And also, if you don't know anybody that works for the TSA, chime in on the chat. Let us know that as well. Speaking of being... How do I segue this one? So Jazz got felt up by a TSA agent. Do you think that TSA agent was under the influence of subliminal messaging throughout her lifetime, and that may have led to her eagerness to inspect under the ladies? Or
who are you
possibly
asking?
not. I'm not asking. I guess I'm just throwing it. I'm really good at segues too, by the way. That's my segue. I'm the specialist.
I get so many pat downs. Like, I honestly, I don't know what it is. I'm always getting flagged.
I have had enough trouble with TSA over the years and enough trouble with airlines in general and air travel that I just simply don't fly anymore if I can avoid it. And if I have to fly, I suppose I would fly out of a small private airport so I don't have to deal with that crap. But
well, you would be surprised because these were both small airports. I have been patted down now 3 times in the last 4 flights that I've taken.
Well, I mean, maybe that's just because you're Jasmine Star, and like when they see you coming down that airport connector thing that comes out of the airplane or that goes to it, they see you coming down the concourse or whatever. Hey, look, it's Jasmine Star, and then they fight with each other.
Let's pat her down.
Yeah. She's going to do the photo declining thing. Well, this will give us a chance to pat her down.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, no joke. So there is definitely some programming going on in society, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But before we do, I wanted to quickly go back to our poll of the week, which has to do with the Olympics. Everybody go conspiracysquad.com and click poll of the week. We need to know if you're watching the Olympics this year or if you're not, and why. There's several options laid out on the poll that you can tell us what's up with the Olympics and your opinion about it. And so we'd like to get your opinion on that. In the meantime, Jasmine Star and Kat Marks, did anybody watch the opening ceremony of the Paris Olympics from 2 days ago?
No, but I heard all about it.
Jazz, same?
No, I took a social media break.
Well, I don't blame you one bit, because the 2024 Olympics are experiencing a 48% drop in viewership among Americans, which is an unprecedented decline. And a lot of people are blaming this on the Last Supper skit that these drag queens did with a grotesquely overweight Christ dressed in drag, which seems to be the main point of contention for anybody that maybe, I'm sure everybody's heard of this by now, but there was a reenactment of the famous Michelangelo painting. I believe it was Michelangelo that painted the Last Supper, with Christ at the center of the table, and then he was flanked on both sides by mostly drag queens, but a couple of people apparently not dressed in drag.
And there was a child.
Okay, and the Christ figure himself was about 800 pounds, and dressed as a woman, which all of these things, including the child, were found to be, I guess, certainly anti-Christian in terms of their messaging. But the Olympics has never really been a Christian event. I mean, it's an event that has its roots in ancient Greek traditions. What's the first Olympics that you can remember, Kat? Do you ever remember watching it? Like, what's the oldest memory that you have from it?
Definitely in the 90s, my family and my friends, we all used to watch the ice skating. The ice skating was like the big thing for us.
Oh yeah, the Winter Olympics.
But yeah, the Winter Olympics. But I was never really a big TV person, honestly. So I probably haven't seen it since the 90s.
Well, I don't think I really watched it a whole lot in my 20s and 30s, to be sure. But I did pay attention in 2012 when they did a very strange horror movie skit version of Mary Poppins, which featured dozens and dozens of hospital beds with sick children on them, and
Right.
each of the hospital beds included a shower head that seemed to resemble the sort of shower heads that you often see in like Holocaust reenactments and dramatizations and stuff like that. There was also a giant effigy of a dead child, which was displayed in this opening ceremony in 2012, and a demon with a magic wand that was several stories tall. Now you can kind of start piecing together some of the messaging around sick children, hospital beds, people being gassed, all this stuff. And then, an overlord with a magic wand, that starts to all make sense when COVID comes out and people are going, wait a second. Remember the opening ceremony. So this isn't their first time. We look at Paris, and this is not the first time they've done something really, really weird. And it seems like the ones that are the weirdest are the ones that occur in Western countries, like France in this case, and the 2012 one happened in London. Jazz, what do you think? I mean, you think this is predictive programming, or do you think this is just them giving a big tell?
Predictive programming. I mean, this has been going on for decades, if not centuries. Well, actually, it's been going on for centuries, all of this programming, but
how do you think they did
it's more
programming in the dark ages? Did they when they didn't have access to hypermedia like we have now with video and the internet and everything, like how would you do predictive programming, say, in the age of the printing press? Just print things that were not true, or?
Well, print things that were not true, but I mean, even if you go back into look at like the Colosseum and things like Roman theater and they were all male actors and everything like that, and they portrayed whatever characters they were wanting to portray, and they could do that in any way that they wanted to do so.
Indeed. So they've kind of, the people running the show have always been running the show, is basically what I hear you saying. And the Olympics have been around for a long, long time. I mean, thousands of years. It's a prehistoric thing. And it's one thing that I think is kind of cool about the Olympics. The Super Bowl has only been around since the late 60s. Oh, that's the other thing, too. So the Olympics is not, I was looking when I found out that the viewership of the Olympics has contracted by 48% in the last 4 years. I also was tempted to see, like, what are the biggest sporting events around the world in terms of viewership. And the number one by far is the World Cup of soccer. And both men's and women's categories have a huge, huge following. Another one that blows away the NFL and the Olympics, Jazz, you'll appreciate this, is the Tour de France. So,
nice.
And like, you don't hear about that. The Tour de France just finished. Like,
yeah, I was watching it on YouTube.
Yes. Hooray for you.
Thank you.
I mean, like, it's crazy how we get into these little compartmentalized areas where we think we've got a view of the whole world. And it's like, no. The Olympics is just this little thing, and both the World Cup and the Tour de France blow them away in terms of interest and engagement, viewership, and everything. But they are doing such creepy stuff at the Olympics. It really makes you wonder why.
It's a stage. All the
It's
world's
like
a
Shakespeare.
stage. All the world's yeah, exactly. That's all the world's a stage.
Well, it's interesting. Speaking of stage and speaking of creativity, creative efforts, and so on, the main subject for tonight is subliminal messaging and how it's used in Hollywood productions. And, you know, Kat has, despite her struggles with some allergies, done some amazing work over the last several days to bring some really interesting stuff to our attention. Kat, I'm going to go ahead and get some of your media pulled up, but what in the world is going on with some of these Disney movies and old-fashioned Simpsons cartoons and everything? Like, what's up with all of that? Take the wheel, please.
Sure. So I guess we can start with what really is subliminal messaging. Subliminal itself, if you take it apart, sub is below, and in Latin, limen is threshold. So we're talking about below the threshold, say, of conscious perception. I believe it's similar to propaganda, but it's more cynical because it is, I believe, deceptive, and because it's trickery. You don't know that these ideas are being implemented into your brain. It's happening, without your consent, essentially.
Or sometimes with your willingness.
Willingness, yeah, I think, but I think a lot of people don't know that that there are subliminal messages in so many things, because it's like it starts with children. They started with children, and it's almost like a brainwash. You grow up, everything's sexualized. Everything is about war, and you think these things are normal. Going back to predictive programming, it's just brainwashing. They're making you prepared to see these things in the future and be okay with it.
So what are some examples that you've seen of this kind of programming over the years in mass media, like some of the recognizable examples?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so I think the biggest one that most people know is the Disney cover of The Little Mermaid, with the penis on the cover, which they have since changed. I think that was like the biggest, maybe because it was changed, it was such a bigger story than the rest. But there are other ones, like in The Lion King, where Simba, as an adult, lays down on the ground and it kicks up dandelion, dust feathers, and it spells out sex in the air.
So these are just with this one, it's an animated effect where they make the word sex briefly appear in the frame, in the sky.
Right.
So, I mean, that seems like the kind of prank that a 10 or 11-year-old would play, though. Like, the word sex is so... I mean, shouldn't be in a Disney movie. That's true. Maybe that's.
Well, and you look at children, and, like, there is a curiosity, like a natural curiosity, I believe, I think some parents can relate to that with children, whenever they're young and everything like that, there's a little bit of natural curiosity there, and and the more they're exposed to it, they're really no stranger to the word even. So it wouldn't be surprising for a child to actually pick up and see that, or be influenced by that image I can't even say it right now. Subliminally, possibly.
I don't recall the first time that I acknowledged seeing the scene. I knew about the scene with the sex written out in the sky in The Lion King. I have a vaguely different memory than this, but it does stack up. Originally, and this might be the Mandela effect, but when I thought about this in retrospect, without seeing the image that's on the screen now, I thought that there was a scene where the hyenas ran away and they scratched up a whole bunch of dust with their rear feet while they were running, trying to get traction. And as the dust cloud dissipated, it formed the word sex. And if anybody has that recollection, please validate me, because that's what I remember now. But, what I'm looking at on the screen now, perfectly plausible. And in Kat's research, that's what she came up with, and it makes sense. I don't remember the scene. I guess I'm going to have to rewatch the movie. The Lion King is one of my favorite Disney films for sure, because it's a father-son story.
So I do remember the scene like this, because I remember back then my friends and I, they were telling me about it, and I was like, no way, no way. And they were like, yeah, watch, and played it back. And actually, I had an ex-fiance at one time who knew someone that used to draw for Disney, and they would literally start with a photo of something pornographic, like a penis, and they were instructed to draw a character out of this photo, and that's how they drew a lot of their pictures. They started with something sexual and made a character out of it.
So, but their marching orders inside of the studio, the creative studio, were start with something dirty?
Yes.
Or
that's how they started it.
Start with something sexual. Maybe dirty is the wrong word, but something really sexual and suggestive.
And there's a perfect example of this on the Disney gift card. They have Minnie, her arm is a penis. And yeah, you look back and you can see it. But when you're say you're buying the gift card in the store, you're not going to notice it. It's subliminal.
Yep.
I mean, this reminds me of that like Mad Magazine page folding shit they used to do when Jazz and I were like real little. Jazz, do you remember Mad Magazine?
Mad.
Oh, you remember it too?
My dad has stacks of it still.
I mean, like it does clearly look like a circumcised penis. And then you can see on Mickey's trousers or his shorts, like he's got it's up on the screen right now. Like his red shorts, like the white dot on his left side looks like his thumb, and it looks like it's wrapped around a penis. And once you realize that's what it is, that you also understand that Minnie is not even in perspective in the slightest way. Like she's not.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can share that on the collab cam.
And that's how they were instructed to pretty much essentially draw everything.
Yeah, I mean it's
every character.
So what is Disney's comeback to that? Oh, you guys are just a bunch of perverts because you see penises everywhere.
Yeah. What do you think? We're drawing penises? Yeah, we do.
Well, I mean, for $100 gift card, I guess you get your money's worth. You get a nice big blue Disney penis with it.
Yeah.
But I mean, notice the direction of it too. I mean, it's going right to Mickey's mouth.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
I mean, that's how in your face some of this stuff is whenever you really start to look at it.
This is how you know Jazz is like a trad woman, because I would never have, as a dude, like, hey, look, he's going for it. But
what about that makes me a trad woman though?
Well, I'm just saying.
It's actually a common theme. In also, I'm sorry to cut you off. In Toy Story, there is another scene where the shadow on the floor is of a woman giving head.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen that too. Yeah.
And there's another one. There's
unbelievable. I've got that one pulled up now. Okay, and that's not a small penis either.
It's subliminal, but not. It's right in your face.
I want to say it's Toy Story 2, judging by the characters. But I wonder what it'd be interesting to see what they're actually reacting to.
Does it ever make you wonder too?
She is doing something. I forgot what she's doing. My memory escapes me, but she was doing something where she was talking and doing something up with her hands. I remember that. But it just created this shadow.
Oh, she's drinking.
So
She's drinking
obvious.
something. It looks like she's maybe drinking something out of a bottle, like a Pepsi bottle or something like that.
I don't remember.
I've got my dad hat on right now, trying to clean it up. Like she's just drinking something, guys.
Yeah.
Very aggressively.
You see how the toys look shocked at something. They're like, "Oh my god."
I know. Like Mrs. Potato had even lost an eyeball over it.
When you even think of their names too, I mean, you have Buzz, who like you can think about with alcohol, and then you have Woody, and obviously that's like an underlying like theme.
Absolutely.
And what's on the bottom of Woody's shoe? It's ownership of Woody that says Andy's. So it's kind of all of those little undertones, like those little tiny things that people don't really like think about whenever they're watching a movie. But when you sit back and you look at all of this, all the stuff that these images and everything like that, then it makes you kind of go, whoa, wait a second.
Yeah.
It does. You know what, Jasmine? I sure hope that my kids are not watching this stream, because this is going to like mess up their loving memory of Toy Story. Yeah.
I can't even watch Disney. For me, it's like I have cousins that are huge Disney fans, and I'm just like, don't you know they're pedophiles?
We got to do a show about Disney World.
Yeah.
Because there's some very, very interesting, and the stats too about missing children there.
Yes.
Yeah, the tunnels.
It's like the highest rate of missing children in the world or something like that is in Orlando, which is crazy.
Yep. So, and I think it all does connect back. This is, I mean, whose job is it, if you're going to assume that all of this stuff is by accident, or at least that the Toy Story image that we're looking at right now was an innocent mistake? Then whose job is it to go through the entire film, frame by frame, searching for innocent mistakes? And first of all, does anybody have that job? And should they be fired if they miss this one?
Well, because the thing is, right? Remember, it's an animated film. It's not live action where something can look something like something else. Someone made this purposefully. They designed it to look like that. So to me, a mistake is impossible.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's and there's so many more people involved in the framing and direction of each of these scenes. There's computer engineers, there's graphic designers, there's colorists, there's animators. Like, it's not like there's just 5 people on the set with some lighting guys. All of these artists are looking at it from every different angle. So when it comes out,
it's perfect.
And so when it renders down to the final product, I wonder how many people does it take to sign off on this to all agree that, that looks good, just leave it in there. Even if it was by mistake, which I don't think it was. This is way too suggestive. Okay, what's up next, Kat?
There's a couple others in Disney, but we could move on to The Simpsons, which has an innumerable amount of subliminal messaging in its episodes.
And I think predictive programming too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
Including the fake Trump assassination retro Simpsons thing that apparently, upon further research, never was an actual Simpsons episode. In other words, people saying, oh, the Simpsons predict that Trump was going to be shot dead, except apparently in retrospect that episode never occurred. And somebody just more recently made a Simpsons artwork that looked like an old episode and then tried to pass it off as a Simpsons predictive programming.
AI now can
sorry for stomping on that.
No, you're fine. I think probably the most famous one is the 9/11 cover. After 9/11 happened, I think that was like everyone just started really looking at The Simpsons. And then you see obviously the things like the Trump on the elevator, which is like an exact replica of the Simpsons image. It's almost as if in real life they did it on purpose to make it match. But because it's just uncanny.
Well, Melania is not in the background in the Simpsons version,
right?
Which is interesting, because I don't know. I think was Donald and Ivanka still married at the time of in 2000? They had to have been.
I don't know. I think they were. Yeah.
They had to have been because Barron is only like 20 years old or something like that, right? Somebody chime in on the chat. Let's find out how long Barron's been alive, because I think Barron is Ivanka's son, if I'm not mistaken.
Also on the chat, I know that we wanted to throw in, if somebody wants to chime in about the Mickey Mouse watch and the symbology behind the hands at 10 o'clock and 9.
Okay, so the watch that looks like Mickey Mouse, where his arms are the hands of the watch.
Yeah.
Which probably everybody saw that when they... Oh,
right.
The watch is in Toy Story?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I guess I don't watch enough TV.
But numerous companies have their watch. I tried to jump down Nove watches. It's like a 18-year-old like heiress and everything. But her watches, it's like I immediately picked up on it, and you start to look at all these watch ads. They're all 10 and 9, but it all seems to have started with the Mickey watch with the arms at 10 and 9.
Oh, you mean in terms of like showing the watch in advertisements, like a default location for where the arms are supposed to be?
Yeah.
That's interesting, because in photographs, in professional photographs of bicycles, there's also a spot where the crank arms are supposed to be aligned. So the crank arms are where the pedals are. And if you're looking at a bicycle head on to the side, the crank arms are supposed to be completely parallel with the tube that goes from the crank all the way to the back wheel. And I've been wondering for a long time how that got started too. But you're saying that the method of photographing watches was influenced by Mickey to begin with.
I'm not saying that. It's just I find there's a coincidence behind that.
Interesting.
We got to figure out what that is.
So yeah, that's what we do, is we figure out coincidences and then discover more coincidences. Repeat cycle.
And ask our live chat.
There's always something.
Yeah.
Yes.
We
All
work as a team.
Very deep. Yes.
So, Kat, what else? Let's talk some more Simpsons. What else do you have?
There is the Stonecutters Guild, the secret society in The Simpsons, that is very much like an Illuminati type ceremonial, sacrificial type Stonecutters Guild meeting.
Is this the one where they're standing in a pentagram and this demon has it looks
that
like
is one of them, yeah.
Marge's sisters.
But
and then there's a book on the floor that's titled "The Joy of 666."
Yeah.
I mean,
and I think it's a little bit like for Freemasonry. It's almost like an advertisement for Freemasonry. I feel like I don't know.
Well, you don't meet too many Freemasons that are particularly willing to talk about their initiation rites. In fact, none.
No. And they all, I know a couple, and they all say how great it is, and they do this, and they do that. And I'm like, yeah, sure. But that's just like, you guys are the front people for what goes on in the back, and nobody knows about that.
Well, they claim ignorance. They claim that that's not what it's about, and it's about becoming a better man and serving your community and all this stuff.
And I think, because really you have to be a certain degree to even know what goes on, to even know the secrets. So a lot of those people, they might be very truthful in how they feel about it because they don't know.
Well, this is what's behind my theory of perfect secret keeping. People are like you have this common belief. Like if you talk about a conspiracy theory and you tell some friends about it, they'll say something like, well, that could not be true because the people in charge are benevolent. They care about us. They would never keep these secrets from us. And I'm like, boy, there are 50,000 people in every country on this planet whose job it is to keep secrets from you. And they've been doing it for 3,500 years. And the Freemasons, I believe, are a big component of that. So is the military. But I don't want to get too sidetracked. What else do you have?
Yeah, so Mr. Burns himself is
cream of the crop. Look at this dude.
After Jacob Rothschild. And that, it's just so much in your face. It's like, just accept this for what it is, and they're making a joke out of it. But
it's unbelievable. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Of course, they had to give Mr. Burns a red tie to make him more, I guess, neocon or whatever.
Of course.
Yeah. Crazy. So definitely. So does this fall under predictive programming? And how do you, what are the parallels between what's going on with The Simpsons and what's going on with all these Disney movies? I mean, the people that work at Disney are clearly obsessed with dirty little sex stuff. And the people that work at The Simpsons are clearly obsessed with the future of mankind. Or am I getting it wrong, Kat?
Well, what I think it comes down to is that the heads of both companies may or may not be the same person. And I think they have close ties with the controllers of the world. So I don't know if they're, it's almost like you have to tell what you're going to do before you do it. That's like their mantra. And so, if they tell you all these things right in front of your face and then they go and do them, it's almost like, well, I told you about it, so nothing we can do now.
So in other words, they're counting on the ignorance of the people, having been informed, 100%. Having been, fully discussed. We have your willingness to go along with this contract. And so therefore, we're moving on from it. We're exonerated because you people went along with it. We told you exactly what we were going to do, and so there's no blood on our hands.
Right.
How long do you think they've been doing it like that?
I mean, since America's inception, since before America, this has been going on. These families are, Jazz said, centuries old. And I think, we are just slaves. We are here worker bees for the queen, essentially. And
I think some of us are working for God.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. But that's where knowledge is power. When you know about it, it gives you the power to be able to escape it and not be under the control.
So do you think that some of these nefarious forces in the world have the ability to suppress the notion that people have that they're actually light workers and starseeds and indigos and positive forces in the world that are working on behalf of the individual and of freedom, positivity, and of our Creator? So the forces that rule the world can somehow suppress that coming of age and keep people from realizing what their purpose is on Earth?
I think there's power in numbers. The more people that awaken and realize what's going on, then yes, they can be stopped because there's only so few of them. But it just, in my experience, I guess I have a little bit of a glass half empty type of view because my family and my parents, they oppose pretty much everything that I stand for and I believe in. Not purposefully, but they are very much under the control of the television, if I say. They believe everything the TV says, and I don't know anything, and I have no right to an opinion because I don't watch TV.
Well, so, yeah, you're going to be on TV at some point talking about all this stuff, probably. So then you can say, "See, Mom, I told you." Dean South brought up something very, very interesting in the chat. He said vampires cannot come into your home unless invited. I've been researching something called the Threshold Covenant. Richard Serrett has a wonderful podcast series called what is this? Strange Planet, and he does several episodes about threshold covenants, which are biblical. So basically, the idea with a threshold covenant is that a spiritual force must obtain permission in order to enter into your home and influence your home or your temple or your life or what have you. And the initial examples of a threshold covenant go all the way back to the very beginning of recorded history, in the book of Exodus even, where God himself enters into a threshold covenant with the Jews of old, where he sends the angel of death to pronounce the final plague upon the Egyptians. And in order to make sure that he doesn't have any deceivers and spies and backstabbers amongst the ranks of his people, he instructs them through Moses to make sure that they paint the thresholds of their homes with lamb's blood, in order to cause the angel of death to pass over those homes and not slaughter the firstborn, because the purpose of the death angel in Exodus, or the mission of the death angel in Exodus rather, was to kill the firstborn of not just every Egyptian, but everybody who did not enter into this threshold covenant with the Creator, including animals and a whole bunch of other stuff. There's been a whole bunch of interesting research on that. So the threshold covenant, very interesting. You've also heard many stories over the years of people rejecting spiritual forces that would try to enter into their homes over the threshold and being rejected, especially with the invocation of the name of Christ. And it's interesting that the word threshold came up earlier in the show, and that Dean South kind of alluded to it. They need people's permission in order to get away with this stuff. And what they're really saying, they're not just asking for your permission; they're asking you to join their team, because that's what a threshold covenant really means. When God asked the children of Israel to protect their homes against the angel of death, he was saying, "I need you to join my team," and that I believe is how threshold covenants work. Long aside, but I just wanted to get that out. Thank you, Dean Southgate, for that good chat.
I think that if people, are aware and have knowledge, then they're able to make better informed decisions. Because some people can allow, these demons into their lives without realizing that they're actually demons. That's because they come, it's like a wolf in sheep's clothing. They come as these saviors, or however they have you.
So, Jazz, what do you think about all this? It's a long one.
It's a loaded question. I mean, I don't know exactly where you start where.
Well, we started with predictive programming. And actually, let's return to that thread. Kat, what else do you have, if anything? Or is that pretty much the end for that subject for us?
Well, the last thing I think was there is a great movie called They Live, 1988, yes. John Carpenter. Roddy Piper was the main character.
Yeah.
Amazing movie. Essentially, he finds these sunglasses, and his sunglasses allow him to see the world for how it really is. That it's all about control and consumerism, and there's basically these aliens that rule the world at the time, and he can see them with the sunglasses on, and he tries to save the world. It's a great movie.
Yes, you said that came out in 88?
88.
Oh man, how old was I in 88? I was still afraid of the cover of that VHS at the time, when I was way too old to be afraid of that shit. Because I remember, like, the cover was it was something like the cover of Evil Dead. There was like a skeleton face on it, or something like that.
Yes, the face. Yeah.
And my son also is like That was his childhood fear. Was he called them bone guys? I don't like bone guys. Like, yeah, I don't like bone guys either, man. But there's a bone guy inside all of us, you know. So,
Yes.
All right. So we're going to wrap the show up here in just a minute. But first, we have to go through chats. Jazz?
I was going to bring up one thing real quick. Just like on the hills of
You've been researching, haven't you? You've been over there researching in your little window, haven't you?
Well, it was I wanted to look up some dates because I wasn't sure of the dates. But it was something when you were busy before the show that Kat and I were talking about.
There's a lizard crawling up the wall right now on my end.
What?
Sorry, Everglades problems.
All right, squirrel. So the first... Hey, that's in Disney too.
Doesn't usually happen in the studio.
So the Twilight Zone, the first episode of the Twilight Zone was called Where Is Everybody? And I just find it interesting, and that's what I was looking up the actual date. That one was released on October 2nd of 1959.
5'9".
So they have this man that is, it's almost like Truman Show-esque without anybody being there. And he's like looking to try to find people. He's being like separated from humanity. All of the stuff's going on. And then he's slowly like developing this fear as he's going. And he's like, where is everybody? Where is everybody? And, as it proceeds, we'll just skip towards the end of that. They show him at a point where he's like not even physically doing well at that point. And he's just like hitting this button. And he's like, at this point, they show him in a box and he's got electrodes. And then government officials walk in to disconnect him from the electrodes that they've placed on him. And they've been monitoring his vitals the whole time. They've been watching his thoughts the whole time. And so when we're talking about like this predictive programming and everything like that, and you're looking at 1959, supposedly, if we want to believe the time frame, MK Ultra was introduced in 1953.
You're saying that this was the first episode of The Twilight Zone?
The very first episode of The Twilight Zone, and I encourage anybody who hasn't watched it to watch it because it is... to know, like, when you see the government come in and he's a soldier and they're performing an experiment to see how far they can push him psychologically before he breaks down.
So, in other words, but he's connected to like electronic machine in reality, but
medical electrodes, like monitor heart rate, but they're also doing like EEG stuff. So they're monitoring his brain waves, all of that.
So they're making him hallucinate?
Yes. And have like these kind of like visions and everything like that. So, I
gotta go watch that episode.
Yeah, that's dark, man.
So for me, I look at, MK Ultra 1953, the very first episode of The Twilight Zone released in 1959, and that is what it has to entail. And then as, the question was posed earlier, how long has this been going on? Well, who really knows how long, this predictive programming? But for me, that was like when I saw that episode myself, I was kind of like, whoa, and it gets the wheels turning. It's like, okay, well, we're aware of MK and it's been declassified and yeah.
Well, producer
I think
Paula
see it more today.
Producer Paula wanted to do an episode about simulation theory, and what you're suggesting here really seriously overlaps with the idea of simulation theory, and that a lot of what we see and feel and hear and smell and taste every day is being somehow controlled by a program which is at odds with our manifest destiny or our individual freedom. And so this first episode of the Twilight Zone that you bring up kind of, I mean, that's that's like a simulation theory inside of one guy, right? So he's just being tampered with by government scientists. And how does it end? Does he wake up or anything like that?
They take him out of the box that he's in because they've created this whole world around him, this whole town, and all of this weird stuff is happening. Like he thinks he hears this woman talking. He goes up to talk to her, and it's a mannequin that falls down. He hears cries for help and stuff like that, and he goes running in, and he's in a movie theater, and nobody's in the theater.
Yeah, it's like every possible downer.
But how did the projector get started? And when you think about the symbolism in something like that, it's like the video. We're watching a movie. How did the projector get started? And here it is. They're like laying it out there, and it's being shown to us. And then we continue to have it being shown to us in things like Disney, in The Simpsons, in movies like They Lived. It's everywhere. It's pervasive. It's programming, and that's just. I'm just going to stop right there.
And it's clear. So one of my favorite movies is THX 1138 by George Lucas. It's the film he made before American Graffiti, and he seems to have dipped very heavily into this first episode of the Twilight Zone too, because it's about this guy who is like just seriously questioning his reality, and this guy has to be heavily medicated, as does his roommate and everybody that they live with, and he's required to go operate mundane machinery all day long for his job, and just nothing makes sense to him. And eventually he hits this breaking point or snaps, and he's got to get out of there. So anyway, that's my lens on what you just brought up about the Twilight Zone. THX 1138, George Lucas. We have got to get to some chat messages real quick.
You got to get Dean's last one here.
I will. I'll get to it. Dean is always the king. Dean, I got to know where you were last episode, Dean South 8, because you weren't here. And I'm assuming it was pretty important. Man, I can't wait to see you again, dude. It's been a long, long time. And Frito as well, although not as long for Frito. So, all right, let's see here. Dean, prior to us going live on the chat, says, yawn, I set alarms. Now, we started 90 seconds late, but Dean was already falling asleep 90 seconds into it because we started late. Let's see. Put your links in the body of each video as a footer. Yes, that's fair, Dean. You know what, Dean? You're going to end up getting a job here if you're not careful. He makes fun of Don Lemon. I mean, God, why Don Lemon is such an easy target. Why are they putting these nimrods on TV like that?
Did you do the straw poll? I'm sorry. Did we get the straw poll?
We can check back in on the poll. So we had an interesting poll up. Jazz, go ahead and segue that. I'm going to get it pulled up while you do so.
Yeah. So we put up the poll of the night.
Poll of the week.
Poll of the week. Pardon me. And
we did get quite a few more votes on it. Yep.
Yeah. So this week's poll was, are you watching the Paris Summer Olympics? And that was something that we had talked about a little bit earlier.
Yep. So I got the results pulled up, or do you want to talk about them?
No, you can go ahead and pull up the results there.
So 1/3, yes, I love the Olympics. 1/3, no, it's globalist garbage. 16.6%, no, I don't like sports. 16.6%, no, I prefer baseball, football, hockey over the Olympics. And then 0% watching it because a spouse or family member likes it. So, in other words, you might watch the Olympics, but you're not watching it if your brother or your girlfriend wants to watch it. Like, no way. Like, I would watch it, but like my mom likes it, so nope. So that's where we ended up on the poll of the week with the Olympics. And this bizarreness of the Olympics. Holy mackerel.
Yeah.
All right, so continuing with the chat. PF3 says Chewy. So we got some Chewy fans out there. Let's see. Dean brought up the facial recognition clothing, anti-facial recognition clothing, which we talked about earlier.
I want to get some of that.
We had a chatter, Dana Sis. I know Dana Sis. She says that she knows 2 TSA agents personally. Dean South 8 says TSA agent under influence propaganda. Edward Bernays. Not true. Subliminal. Dean, we need to put some more verbs in your chat so that I can understand them. I'm old school. Okay, so PF3 says that Mike said the enactment was not based on the Last Supper, but it was based on an Italian painting about Greek mythology. Okay. That's something that I'm willing to entertain, but I don't think there's been. I don't think there's been any official denial that it was a mockery of the Last Supper.
And supposedly one of the guy's testicles fell out too.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Dean South says my first Olympics was the Epix Winter Games on the Commodore 64. Dean, this is why I love you, dude. All right. Dean South later on says this is not grooming, not programming. Grooming you for Satan, marginalizing this perverted behavior so they can ultimately get your kids. Okay.
This is grooming. Yes.
PF3 got a little colorful tonight. I'm kind of surprised, Frito. Did you see some of Frito's chats, Jazz, about the?
I was trying to peek every so often and keeping an eye on the chats, but yeah.
I mean, there may or may not have been an eggplant emoji dropped into PF3.
I saw the eggplant.
Well, Dean also was asking about the Swiss cheese video that we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. Yeah, we were talking about that episode before the show started. Yeah, Swiss cheese Mickey.
So actually, PF3 said Minnie's blue, you know what, dress is on deck, and she was right. Yeah, because she knew it was coming up. Good job, PF3. All right, pedo symbols in Lion King. Yep. I dated a guy who was a Disney Imagineer. Guess what? Found out he was a... Now, I just have to say something. Today, I was having a lengthy for me, because I'm not a big texter, but I had some text back and forth with somebody who I really need to tell their story about the origins of YouTube, the acquisition by Google, and the influence of interesting whales in the beginning of YouTube. And this is somebody that I know personally. So if you happen to be watching the show today, please reach out, and we can do it anonymously if you want, but I really, really want to get this story told. Maybe it's not a story. Maybe it's just an interesting angle, but we need to tell it. Okay. PF3 says, Toy Story is one of my favorite movies too. Everything has this crap in it. All the movies. Let's see. Dean South. Vampires can't come in your home unless you're invited. Yes, that's true. We know about the threshold covenant. Let's see. And we have... People are really digging They Live, Kat.
Best movie ever.
I know about the movie. I still have not seen the movie, but
you should watch it tonight. I think you have to pay for it.
I mean,
it's not it's not streaming anywhere.
Okay. Well, I mean, you should have to pay for a bottle of water. I remember a time when you didn't have to pay for water.
I think it's like $3.99 for rent.
Let's see.
It's so good, it's worth it.
Dean Southgate says I've been binge watching TZ2. You guys work for Amazon or something. Binge. By the way, Amazon salespeople have access to your shit.
He's been binge watching, not bitch watching.
Did I say bitch watching?
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
He's binge watching Twilight Zone, and so he's saying, do we work for Amazon?" That's why I was laughing.
Well, I'm sorry.
hilarious.
I am neither binge watching nor bitch watching Twilight Zone. But if I was going to watch it, I would probably bitch watch it. Amazon salespeople have access to your shit, purchase history, everything. Yeah, I'm sure they do. Let's see. Dean worked on his fence yesterday. It's amazing that he was awake for the show. You guys are the best. Dean South, PF3, Dana says, everybody that joined the chat tonight, everybody that's mentioned in the VIP list, and as well as all of our new followers. We sure do appreciate you. Jazz, how does everybody get a hold of you and follow you online?
They can find me on X at JasmineStar239. And if they want to look for me, I'm not on Instagram too much, but it's at star and underscore light and underscore readings.
And star with 2 R's, right?
Yes.
Okay, so some kid is going to have to rewind the video and piece that all together, and it'll be okay. All right, what about you, Kat? How do people get a hold of you online?
I'm either on Instagram at Catherine _, or I'm also on X, but I never go on it. It's Kitty Tack, KITTYTAC.
Oh, Kitty Tack. That almost sounds like a guns and ammo type of thing, like tactical.
It's cat backwards.
Oh.
Kitty Tack. Kitty cat.
Oh, yeah, that's also kind of cool.
But tactical sounds cooler.
All right, so
I think that would make a great song.
Yeah. Tactical sounds cooler.
No, kitty tack.
Kitty Tack.
Kitty Tack.
Kitty tack. Yeah. You should write that one.
There you go. All right, and I'm Nigel Kent. I can be reached at NigelKent239 on Twitter. Of course, follow the show. Join the C Squad on Twitter. Join the C Squad on Instagram. Official Conspiracy Squad on YouTube. And our great home here on rumble.com/conspiracy squad. And Jazz, there's only one thing more to say. I'm going to